Welcome back on Africa States of Equal Platform. My name is Richard. I'm in the studio with my co-anchor, Mariam, and a distinguished personality, Susan, and we have Mulikat. We have been discussing gender and trying to understand the basis of gender and what differentiates gender from sex. I don't know, will I be right to ask the question that there are two genders or we have multiple gender? Because I hear all kinds of gender. Recently people come up say I'm transgender. I am this, I am that, and that. I don't know. Can you throw more light about this conversation around multiple genders? I don't know. Mariam, can you say something?
So, coming to the conversation of gender, there are actually different types of gender. Now, we have the LGBTQIA community. This particular community are also part of us. In this particular state-of-the-art platform, we are here for everyone. We talk about gender issues that concerns virtually everybody. We do not discriminate based on gender. We accept everyone for how they are and who they are. We have that's the lesbians, the gay, we have the bisexual, we have the intersex, we have the asexual, and then we have the transgender, and etc. etc. I may not be able to bring out all the informations from my head. So these are the different kinds of gender. So, Susan, would you still want to add anything, or you want me to start?
Of course, I mentioned earlier on that even as society gives to us, they ascribe to us rules based on our different sexes. Some individuals also ascribe to themselves or identify themselves to a particular gender based on what they feel, they want or they relate more to. For instance, you mentioned lesbians, gays, and all of that. So they have decided upon themselves that this is who I want to be. I feel more like a female, even though I am biologically a male, but I feel more comfortable in my body as a female. Likewise, a male, that's how, I would want to be referred to as a female instead of a male, or I'd want to be referred to as a male instead of a female. That's we have a local name, we call them here tomboys, like women and all of that. And I know in our African society it's a little bit challenging for these persons from this special community. It's a bit challenging for the African community to actually accept the fact that these persons have decided to see themselves as persons with gender other than the female and the male gender, and they decide to say, okay, I am identifying myself with the gay community. I'm identifying myself with
and also to also add to that, normally there is what they call sexual orientation, and then there is also what they call gender identity. So gender identity, when we talk about the LGBTQ community, also know that it is mixed with their sexual orientation. Like for instance, if a man chose to I'm gay, definitely my sexual orientation, his sexual orientation is gay. You understand? So when we are explaining stuff like this, we should be able to differentiate gender identity from sexual orientation. So if my sexual orientation says that, okay, I am lesbian, it's different. That does not mean my gender is, the name of my gender is lesbian, right? So I'm still female, but then my sexual orientation is talking about me, I don't know. Am I communicating?
Of course, I do.
So there is a huge difference between gender identity and then sexual orientation. Like now we have the intersex. I think we've met a couple of intersex here in the hospital, maybe during an anatomical probably x-rays, and then you come across people like that, but then people don't really understand what that intersex means, because sometimes they call them witches, they call them wizards and all that. Then they end up, sometimes they end up killing them, you don't even know. But at the end of the day, we would also want you to understand that people with intersex, right, should have the ability to be able to choose what type of sexual gender identity or sexual orientation they would actually like to be associated with, right? Because we have come to a standpoint in this particular lifetime in which we need to be open to a lot of change. We need to understand that every human being have different rights, and all rights must be respected.
One other thing I noticed is that as we defined gender as what society, has ascribed to our different sexes, you would also realize that even if you look at a gay couple, already you would see, based on your orientation from the society, you say, okay, this is the female in the relationship, this is the male in the relationship. So even as they want to identify, with these different sexual identities or gender identities, your orientation based on also your context already gives you another role for this person in that relationship, even if the person you are not even sure about it, but because of your orientation and your context, you say, okay, this is the female in this relationship.
You mentioned intersex. Are they the same thing as hermaphrodites, having male and female sex organ in one body?
We don't like to use that term hermaphrodite. Why? Because it is actually a stigmatization kind of word. It is seen as derogatory to the LGBT community. So they are called intersex. So why? Because they were born with two sex organ.
Let me ask a question, then I will revisit what we have discussed. How about people who have feminine anatomy but have male organs? I don't know, a woman with breasts, she has a physique of the feminine physique, but she has male genitals. You've seen such?
Yes.
Heard of such? Okay. All right. If you're just joining us, we are an Africa State of Equal platform on Africa's #1 equality dialogue, and we are trying to explain the basic understanding of gender, and then we'll be able to now discuss gender equality. All over the world, there is a conversation around achieving gender equality. The Sustainable Development Goals, especially Goal 5 and Goal 11, highlights clearly that by 2030, nations of the world should be able to reduce inequalities. Part of the things we're doing as civil society actors is to ensure that we're able to bridge the gap between the male and the female, as well as other gender, right?
We have to be able to differentiate between gender identity and sexual orientation. There is a huge difference. So in terms of sexual orientation, you can decide, oh, okay, I am intersex, sexual orientation. So that's under sex, right? So when you're talking about people like transgender, people like I think an agenda, because there are some people who chose to become, alien humans that transforms themselves, cut off their nose, cut off their ears and all that. So there are different kinds of gender. There are some people that don't want to be identified as that's what they call the agender, right? Asexual agenda. I can't really recall the names, but then I know there are varieties of them. So, but then while we are discussing, we should be able to differentiate between sexual orientation and gender identity. So gender identity, that is what I want to be identified as. Like, for instance, I am female. She is female, but we don't know about him. We are still trying.
I know you wouldn't know about me. Trust me.
There is actually a lot of discourse around how many genders we have. We can't really say, because even tomorrow someone will come up with something, with a new kind of gender. Yes. So we really can't say for sure right now how many types of gender that we have, because, like I said, every day someone will just get up and identify themselves or themselves with. It's fluid.
It's fluid.
Yes.
So but then currently, I think the approved one is like over 70. Yes. Over 70.
Oh my God. 70 genders. I think I should take a new gender, because I've been living for over 30-something years with the same gender. I think it's time for me to take a new gender. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your views. I would like to ask a few questions around roles. The conversation around, but before we go into that, I would like us to discuss gender equality. So when we are having a conversation around roles, gender responsibility, we will now be able to highlight the gaps and where the problem lies. Because what we are trying to do is we are probing if Africa is really ready to achieve equality. So I don't know, when they talk about gender equality, I crack my brain around, and I know you people are distinguished scholars. Can you people throw light around the the concept of gender equality. Can we actually have equality among the genders? You have over 70 genders, right? Can we have equality? I don't know.
We can, but we have to, especially in Africa, we still have a lot to do in achieving this. Because when we're talking of gender equality, a typical African man, they will think that, okay, maybe they want to come and put women to come and be overpowering them or to come and overpower them. And that's not what we mean by gender equality. All we are asking is to give equal opportunity to both males and female and equal rights.
I mean, when you're talking about gender equality, you're talking about equal opportunities, but not just for male and female, right? For all genders. All right, yeah, good. So that's let
me strengthen the definition. Okay. So gender equality simply means just a concept that speaks to each and everyone, man, woman, boy, girl, all gender. And what is it asking for? It is asking for equality in terms of, resources. It's asking for, like, for instance, the fact that I'm a woman, because I know prior years to this, millennial to this, what we have practiced have actually been detrimental in terms of, towards women. Like, for instance, we have long years of gap that we are still trying to fill right now, in which we are trying as much as we can to ensure that we provide, those platforms, those opportunities for women, so they can be able to also step up to get to those particular. Why? Because years and years and years and ages ago, women have been deprived of all these basic opportunities, these normal human rights that are actually our right, things we are not supposed to beg for, things we are supposed to have, right? So the essence of gender equality, concept of gender equality, is we are only asking for one thing: equal opportunities for all to get. You're getting bread, you're getting water. At least give me as a woman the opportunity to get small bread as well as water as well. So at times I come across issues like this in an office, or probably just a setting. You recruit 5 women. And then out of these 5, you recruit 5 people. And out of these 5 people, you have 3 women and then you have 2 men. And then you see a petition coming from the men saying that there is gender inequality. Or probably you recruited 4 women and then 1 guy. And then you start seeing issues, notice and everything coming up that there is gender. No, there is no gender inequality here. Why? Because years and years and years ago, men have been in that position. Men have occupied that position. They are still occupying that position. And if you count the percentage of women in that particular position, you would know that there is actually a deficiency for women. So that is why there is a need for us. So when we talk about gender equality, we are not saying that, okay, now you are giving 50 to this particular person, you should also give 50 to this person. No, that is not equality. That is not equality. Equality is being able to identify that years ago, these people, or equality is being able to identify that if you look at the whole of that sector for 50 years back, how many women have actually benefited, or how many women are in that particular position? Then that is where you'll be able to start your analogy and your analysis from.
If you're just joining us, we are on Africa's State of Equal platform, Africa's #1 equality dialogue. Let's take a break. And then when we return from the break, we'll look at gender roles, we'll look at gender responsibility. And so thank you. We'll be back shortly.